Today is February 16th, 2017. It's Thursday. It's just 7 o'clock. This is the Newmarket School Board on a very cold, crisp night. I'll call the meeting to order and invite everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our meetings have become absolutely chaotic. You can tell by the room right now. There are all 7 of us in the room tonight. Kimberly Shelton is not with us this evening. She let us know at our last meeting that she had a very important engagement, and we wish her luck on her trip. So the public is here. We welcome you and would invite any comment that you might have. That's great. Listen, moving right along. Julia is not well this evening, and she's not going to join us. But we do have a calendar, and I guess the calendar and the superintendent maybe can roll together.
Sure.
You
well,
probably
I have
some things that we can.
Julia's student report that she
good, even
submitted,
better.
so I will share that with you first, and then we can segue into calendar. February vacation, she wants you all to know, is coming up on the 27th through the 3rd of March. Sign up for spring sports is going on right now. The girls basketball team finished with a 12-6 season, so congratulations to them. Boys are 11-6, and their last game of the season is away against Portsmouth Christian. Hockey's record is 6-7, and their next game is tomorrow, away against Merrimack. And the 5th grade field trip to Enterprise City is next Wednesday, the 22nd.
Excellent. We don't want anybody to forget about bingo.
Is the 18th. We moved it to the 18th.
The 18th?
We had to cancel it because of snow, so it is this Saturday.
No snow in sight.
No, so don't say that. And we don't have any information. I don't know the order of winners for the Poetry Out Loud contest. That was, maybe we can have them come. Oh, good.
We did extend that invitation, and I don't have that information yet either.
Okay. That's all I can think of. School vacation.
The board has changed their March schedule. Right now, we are planning to meet not on Thursday, the 2nd of March, which is the Thursday of school vacation. We'll push that off a week and meet instead on Thursday, the 9th of March, here at 7 p.m. And the board is still
Currently scheduled for the 16th.
Yeah, we're scheduled for the 16th and need to continue to talk about whether the 23rd was a conflict for some members. Oh, the superintendent.
And for me.
And the 30th would create a back-to-back into April. So.
But we might be able to meet the week of the 20th on another evening if that worked for board members.
Yeah, that works better than the 19th for me.
Wednesday night. 1st, 15th.
16th.
It's
Either the 20th or the 21st, perhaps?
20th or the 21st, you guys?
Yep. Either one's fine. Yep.
Okay. Would you like me to confirm with Kim which of those works better, and then
Yep.
we can set the date?
The 21st wouldn't work for me,
Oh, it wouldn't.
but that's okay. But
So 20th maybe.
yeah,
So we'll aim for the 20th.
I don't know what this room does on Monday nights.
But if it's not available,
Budget committee, but
we could meet downstairs.
you could meet downstairs.
They
So.
usually beat us.
Yeah. So, looking at potentially tentative the 20th for the board
okay.
instead of the 16th. Okay. Anything else for the calendar? There has been much on the calendar, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to remind folks that voting day is Tuesday, March 14th. We'll be voting in the polls at the junior-senior high school, and the polls are to be open from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. Please do not miss the opportunity to come and participate on March 14th.
And the forms for your absentee ballot are available
from the
with
town
Donna
clerk's office.
in the town hall.
What's the deadline to get those in?
I meant to find that out.
I think it's the previous day.
Day before the,
That sounds right to me. I will
Doesn't it?
need to verify.
Well, yeah. I don't know what times are specifically, but I
Look it up.
think, I don't, you can't, it's not the day of, right? It's the whole idea is that. it's
They have
not
to
the
be
day.
received, I believe, the day before. It's on the
Yeah.
website. I know that it's on the website. I just.
yeah, we have to find that out, because I just, in talking with people, some people, like, they'll travel for work, but they might not know it till the week before, so if we can maybe
Yeah,
get that message
we
out.
have that postcard mailer that will be going out,
Okay.
and that information is slated to be on there when the where they're available and the deadline for turning them in. So we will confirm that.
Okay.
I'm sorry that I don't recall.
Are they ready yet, or
No,
No?
but they're hoping by Saturday,
this Saturday?
this Saturday.
Okay.
On the same subject, are we having any kind of candidates night that anybody's aware of?
So I haven't been informed of one as of yet. It isn't typically organized by the school board or the town council.
In Newmarket, it has been for years, the Newmarket
Business.
Business
Business
Association.
Okay, I just wanted, I did talk with Steve, I think last week, to ask him, and he said something was underway, but I wasn't sure if anybody here was aware of what underway
Yeah, I
meant.
don't believe a date has been set, and I'm not aware if candidates have been contacted as of yet.
Okay, thank you.
I'm looking for, yeah, keep going.
I'm going to walk over here, because when you're ready, I have a brief
Please.
video that students.
Okay, great. I mean, we're ready for you anytime, unless there's anything else for the calendar.
I was sleeping during this schedule.
No.
So when's we rescheduled for when?
Yes.
Don't come the 2nd. We're coming on the 9th of March, Thursday the 9th.
Yeah,
And don't come the 16th. We're tentatively looking at Monday the 20th
at 7.
at 7.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's, appreciate everybody's flexibility. Okay,
So
we're with you.
Teacher at the junior senior high, Liz Bolio's literacy class was working on communication projects. One of the things they were asked to do was sort of a research-based project that they were turning into a public service announcement. And so one of the groups in her class decided to do a public service announcement about the school building project and the importance of facilities with respect to education. And so I thought I would share that with you. We're not going to have good audio. Apparently we're not going to have good video. Let's try that again.
This is our movie candy.
Hmm?
You don't
Get a
understand.
good start.
Yeah, you had something, I thought.
I know, so did I.
I dream about sugar,
Do you really? I don't miss it.
and you're not a heroin.
What do you mean, I don't miss it, he's eating it.
He's playing with
Yeah, right.
Playing with it?
It's called control.
All right, well, we'll come back to this in a second. I know. But it's lost the... So it's playing even though I'm not logged in.
Was it just showing on that?
All right,
I think we're seeing what.
back it up and try again. Maybe. There we go, pause. All right, one more try.
At least it's not a flip chart.
Technology.
Yeah.
These minutes are longer than me.
There it is.
Let's see.
Little cinematography.
Here we go.
This is the middle school in built in the 1960s. Where I'm standing is the high school. It was built in the 1920s. The condition of the building affects student learning, and better buildings can improve student attendance, test scores, attitudes, and behavior. Nicer building conditions encourage teachers and students to not leave the school. Also, it raises teacher expectations and opinions of students.
Jane, turn that up a little bit.
That's it. That's it. But we can make it available online.
We are the class of 2023, and our learning matters to us.
Here. Hey, that's
Are
great.
you gonna play that on
So we'll see if we can get that up on Channel 13 as well. But yeah, they did research to find out more about facilities and their impact on education, and it's a great learning opportunity.
That sounds
2023?
When's that?
It's coming. So I'll jump into the remainder of my report. I will say it feels like we've had more days out than in since our last meeting, and we are grateful to have a few quiet days ahead. I want to thank Jamie Hudson and Brian O'Connor and our custodial crew for a lot of literally heavy lifting and snow removal over the last couple of weeks. I also want to thank Public Works Department and Rick Mulaski for their support in doing what they can to push back snowbanks and keep our lots cleared and our driveways cleared. It's been a tremendous amount of work. Sidewalks as well for students who are walking to school. And I know they're exhausted, so I hope they're getting a good night's rest tonight. We did actually today, I want to thank Mike Hoffman as well from the town. We've been monitoring our roofs for snow load. The elementary school roof is a little bit easier to maintain. We don't have the drifting issues because it's essentially one level. The junior senior high, we worry about drifts and monitoring because they're different aged roofs, just trying to monitor the structure well. So Mike Hoffman walked the roofs with Jamie, and I walked a little bit of it today. I wasn't wearing the right footwear to walk the whole section, but we appreciate his support with that as well, and we feel like we're in good shape right now, but we are continuing to keep an eye on that.
I noticed that Epping on the news tonight had cranes
They did.
They didn't have school today.
unloading these huge sacks of snow,
Right.
and I was wondering about us.
Yeah. So, I mean, we definitely, we know how many pounds per square inch
Yeah.
the roofs are rated for. We did an assessment of essentially the weight of the snow and how heavy it is in certain sections. We've measured the depth in different areas, and we feel like we're, again, in good shape right now, but we'll continue to keep an eye on
I
it.
think you were here when Epping used our gym, because their gym collapsed.
Yep.
Let's see, public service announcement. Oh, the chocolates that were at your stations tonight are courtesy of the Interact Club. Just one example of the type of community service they do, but they were visiting the Pines for Valentine's Day. They also delivered Valentines to staff here at the SAU office, and we share those with you as well. But these are students who are giving back to the community on a regular basis, so I thought it was appropriate to acknowledge them today.
excellent.
And that may be about it, other than I'll speak about the rest, I guess, when we get to shared services and facilities. Oh, no, there is one more thing.
Yeah.
So because we have already had 5 snow days, I am concerned that right now our last day of school is scheduled to be June 23rd. That's a Friday. If we have another day, and we all know that, March lies ahead of us, and it is not unusual to get a storm or two in March, my concern is that we would be pushed into the following week, the week of the 26th of June. My recommendation, and this is for the board's consideration, obviously, is that we move the March workshop day to June and have March 17th be a regular day of instruction for students. I've spoken with the Teachers Association about that, our administrators. I've run that by food service and the bus company, and we think that should work if that's something the board is comfortable with, but we feel like it would be a better instructional day for students in March than it would be in
June.
very late June.
How many snow days do we have left?
Well, we build 5 into our calendar, so we've tapped them all at this point. So we would be extending again through that last week of June potentially if we have additional days.
So if we have 3 more snow days,
Yeah.
the kids they come back the next week for more days. And the hard part is, we've talked about this in years past when I've wrangled with what the language should be on the calendar itself, but the bigger thing is the later you get into June, the more you run into, I've already registered and paid for my kid to go to camp.
Project graduation.
Project graduation.
All the
There's,
positive
when do you
events.
set, when do you set the calendar? So for us to be that deep although this is the month, I mean, February is the month where we traditionally see the greatest number. I think I appreciate that right now, if the conversation is had with the families of 1,000 kids in school, that there will be some who'll say, we're going to the mountain skiing, I bought tickets, it's a 3-day weekend, I got plane flights to Florida. There's any number of things that people will have concerns about on that Friday. But the reality is 90+% will probably be in attendance, and it gives us an extra day against the possibility of having to come back into that next week in June.
Sure.
And
I think
also
it's-
for seniors, it helps protect by one more day the current graduation date or projected graduation date.
I mean, there's probably other rabbits you can pull out of the hat, but this is an easy one that's,
It seems like it, because I mean, I would think we'll be right on the heels too of a school vacation, so I don't know how many 3-day weekends people will have planned.
True.
A week later.
a week later.
Yeah.
Well,
Makes sense to me.
hey, I'd take a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation with regard to the calendar.
So moved.
Second.
So, the motion from Mr. Kennison, seconded by Ms. McKinney, is to bring students to school on Friday, the 17th of March, transferring, if you will, or rescheduling the in-service day to the end of the school year after students have left for the summer. Any more discussion? Thank you for having done the legwork and being creative and insightful to bring us an opportunity to make a difference like that
I really appreciate it.
proactively
Yeah.
as opposed to reactively. Hearing no other discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Then we're unanimous 4-0.
Just while we're on that topic, I will say that one consideration for us moving forward is to look at an hours-based calendar rather than a days-based calendar. And again, as we've talked about, if the bond passes and we need to buy some additional time to buffer us in those years where construction will be occurring, that's one way that we could address that as well. The other benefit of that is that it can give us an opportunity to look at teacher professional time in a different way as well.
Excellent.
I'm not sure I understand that. So what the hours-based means
So there's a minimum number of hours that students need to be provided instruction that's set by law in the state of New Hampshire annually. And that used to be set with, they had to come to school for 180 days.
Right, yeah.
So now you could come for 180 days, or you could come for that minimum number of hours. And so we slightly exceed the minimum number of hours on a daily basis. That could allow us to have a couple of shorter days for students, or shorter school year for students.
So is that new? Because at the 180, I've heard forever.
It's new within the last 6-7
6, 7 years?
Oh, so we've always had the flexibility if
In-
you
in
wanted
recent years we've had it,
a
yeah.
10-hour day instead of an 8-hour day.
No, I wouldn't say we want to go to that level, but
No, but I'm speaking
Right.
figuratively.
yes.
But what they do is ultimately the reality is that different schools with different approaches have a different number of instructional hours in every day.
Yeah, I got
And some
you.
schools offer more instruction in a day than others, and they might accomplish the same number of hours in 178 days or 174 days or what have you. And some of them have said, let's count by hours and maybe don't go to school as many days.
Oyster River, as an example,
one?
goes 178 days, just as one of our neighbors. That allows them, teacher contract is for 184 days. They haven't extended their days, right? But because they meet that minimum number of instructional hours, it allows them 2 additional days that can be used for teacher professional development, which could pay dividends as well.
So it would be better to talk about the number of hours we're required to teach kids per year than days, because the days can change, but the hours can't. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I don't know if I would say it's better or worse. It's just a different way to talk about it. And as we think about flexibility and we think about education moving forward, I think it's something that we should put on the table to explore.
And we would explore it, because we do 181 days, our town.
And we already, with 180 days, we would still exceed the state's minimum hours. With 181, we exceed it even further, but the commitment that had been made by the district and the board was
Okay.
to get as much instructional time as we could. And so it's always hard to talk about reducing your instructional opportunity.
Right.
But given some of the constraints that we may have under the project,
Gotcha.
maybe the flexibility that the hours provides is something we can work with, recognizing that it'll be harder to go back. Do you know what I mean? But I think there's some creative ways that you can definitely look at that.
Interesting.
That's great. Thank you for, it's nice to be thinking creatively and broadly, and
And we're going to have to.
we're going to have to, I think, yeah.
As long as it doesn't affect the education that our kids are getting, I will be behind whatever we need. Because it's my kids that are in there.
Okay. Anything else? I think it's lots of things.
There are
Let's talk about policies then. In our packet, there were two policies.
Yes, both of which have come before the board.
This is a second reading, so we can take action to codify these tonight if we want. So the first is policy KLG, which is titled Relations with Police Authorities. It is it's a one-liner because it references an appendix, which is also on the agenda tonight, the memorandum of understanding for both safe school zones and essentially for our SRO services, but more broadly than that, the relationship between the school district and the police department here in town. So maybe
So
You wanna
when
take
we
one or
first
the
looked at this, policy KLG back in January, and that was the January 19th meeting. The other version, the School Board Association version, was in your packet. I think it was in the first packet that went out this week, but was missed in the packet that's currently in front of you. That made a change because there was a legal update that occurred in September of 2016. So it reads, in the School Board Association policy, it's the policy of the school district to cooperate with law enforcement agencies to the extent necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of students, staff, and visitors to the school. So just, again, a more complete thought about why we do that. And then it goes on to say the district may utilize a school resource officer and may collaborate with local law enforcement agencies to engage the use of a school resource officer. In such situations, the superintendent is authorized to develop and implement a memorandum of understanding with local law enforcement relative to the use of the school resource officer. So that's the more complete policy. Since
But
it's
that's
not in your packet,
But that's a statement of the statute that has now been enacted, or has
Correct.
maybe been modified. I don't know if it's a new statute
legislative
or
amendments
not.
require boards to adopt a policy and enter into an MOU if you're using a school resource officer. So we did have a policy that said we cooperated with law enforcement, and we had a memorandum of understanding, but our policy did not explicitly state that we might have a school resource officer. So our policy has to explicitly state that we have a school resource officer.
Okay.
But I would say, given that this wasn't in your packet and isn't posted, that we should hold off on the approval of this
KLG,
policy until the
okay.
next meeting.
All right, so KLG will table, and it'll come back in an amended form to be voted next time. But why don't we skip private vehicles
Okay?
and instead talk about the MOU, because that's what's behind that KLG policy, and we saw it last time, and there are two pieces. Do you want
That's
to?
correct. So the first memorandum of understanding in your packet is the memorandum of understanding regarding the provisions of safe school zones. So that essentially spells out what is basically in the statute, reportable criminal acts that have to be reported to your local police department and the method for doing that. It also spells out things that are discretionary and clarifies channels of communication between school and police so that the police can disclose things to the school that are protected under the law.
Okay.
This was first enacted in 2008, which I believe was the last, when you initially went down the road with the school, or last went down the road of having a school resource officer in the schools. But because we have both a new police chief and a new superintendent, Chief True and I felt it was appropriate to review this. And what you see before you is basically unchanged, but it was a good opportunity for us to review the information.
I think it's great. Okay, so we'll need a vote on that. That references, and it is consistent with RSA 193D, safe school zones. And then the next piece, which is the furtherance of this, is the local
Correct.
MOU, right?
So this is the local MOU specifically regarding the use of the school resource officer here in Newmarket. It talks about the qualification of that officer. It talks about how that person is paid, and it talks about the role that the school resource officer can play within the school.
Okay, and you probably would like a vote of the board to carry the weight for both of these, right?
I would.
Okay, so has everybody had a chance to read those and feel comfortable? If so, I'd like a motion to accept the MOU for administering the provisions of safe school zones first.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All right, hearing none. On a motion from Mr. Zink, a second from Ms. McKinney. All those in favor of accepting the policy, which is the memorandum of understanding for safe school zones, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And we're unanimous there, 4-0. Next, then, I'll sign that with the superintendent and the chief as soon as we want, or whenever I'm asked to. And then the MOU with regard to the school resource officer, qualifications and duties. I need a vote of the motion of the board to accept that MOU and authorize the superintendent to sign our agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Ms. McKinney, second from Mr. Kennison. Any discussion there? Hearing none. All those in favor of acceptance of that MOU, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? We're 4-0 unanimous. So, KLG will come back to us, but the other policy that was in the packet was the transportation one.
Correct. Policy EEAG, and we looked at this at our last meeting. This policy allows staff members on an incidental basis to transport students as necessary. In our case, that most typically happens when our transition coordinator might be transporting a student for the first time to a job site or to an internship experience. It isn't frequent. In order to do that, they have to provide us with proof of insurance. They're subject to a motor vehicle records check. We already have a criminal records check. They also sign a declaration that certifies that they understand that their motor vehicle insurance is responsible for any damage to their vehicle.
Okay. So I didn't go peek at it, but I just want to ask, third paragraph.
Yes.
Let's go back. Second paragraph.
Yes.
Says any employee or private citizen using their own, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Third paragraph says persons under contract to provide service.
That's right.
And it's almost, I mean, I want to say it's antiquated or maybe, I don't know, but that's more than persons. That's the taxi company locally that helps move students, first student, anybody. It's not persons, it's persons, companies, it's those who are contracted, because this is actually describing two things, right? This is describing both incidental individuals doing
Correct.
this and those who are contracted for busing, if you want to call it that, because those that are contracted are held to a higher standard. They have to have been to the Department of Safety, have a school bus sign, have a fire extinguisher and a first aid
Exactly
kit,
right.
and all of that, right? So for our sake, for the sake of discussion, the third paragraph is really talking to contractors when it says persons under contract.
That's right. And yeah, I think it's in here in part because if at any point Newmarket were to have its own transportation services,
Right.
you would want that inclusion.
So the only thing that I had seen that I thought we might want to look at is the 500,000 combined single limit. And it's an admirable thing, and we should all be doing it, but I believe that standard fare today is 300,000 combined for just about, well, for most of the companies out there that are providing individual auto insurance. So I guess I would suggest we ought to amend that to 300.
And that would be the recommendation of our business administrator as well.
But other than that, I think it's important to have on the books. We want to do this as little as possible in terms of
Yeah.
employees, moving people around in cars. But
I suspect the district has an excess or an
Yes.
umbrella policy, which is above that, so,
We do.
yep. So that should be sufficient.
all right, I seek a motion to approve as amended, if you are willing.
So moved?
Second?
Any more discussion? Thoughts, questions? Hearing none. On a motion from Ms. McKinney, a second from Mr. Zink. All those in favor of approving the policy EEAG, use of private vehicles to transport students as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Then we are unanimous, 4-0. Okay. Shared services.
So we had a discussion at the last meeting.
And just one point, as I'm thinking of it, because I do a fair amount of insurance laws.
Yeah.
You typically have an exclusion for when you're in the conduct of a trade or business. It doesn't apply, so I'm just wondering, we may want to check with counsel on this.
On that?
That, if an employee is doing this, potentially their coverage might not apply because they're doing it in the scope of their employment.
Gotcha. That
And
there might be language in their
There's typically an
private auto
exclu-
that says no, if not if you're being paid for or what have you? Okay.
Yeah. So in other words, in that situation, under the way it's written, the district's insurance would step in immediately, so we might want to look at that.
Yeah. We can confirm that with
Yeah.
Primex,
That's
our
great.
insurance carrier.
Primex generally, as a customer, Primex generally says, wait, why do you want to do that? Please give me a good reason why you have to do it. They really want you to,
Yeah.
why not send a bus? Why can't you send a bus? Well, it's one kid. Yeah, but did you even ask? Like a little bus? They want you to do your due diligence and see if you can't use a school bus always, just because those people are, they're drug tested, they're safety trained, they've got the whole shooting match. So
And isn't that why we didn't get a school vehicle?
it's one.
Because of that reason,
So
one of the reasons.
one of the reasons, yeah. But that's certainly, you have to weigh that in. Trying to do your due diligence and make sure that you're, protecting to the extent we can. So, all right, great, Mike. Thank you very much. That's good. So to the continuing items, first, shared services.
Sorry.
We get started on that next
I
week.
just started
or
to take a
week
breath.
after?
So we're continuing to look at the facilities director position. We expect the council to make a decision at their meeting in early March. So we hope that hiring process will then move forward. Again, that will be led by the town administrator with support as he deems appropriate from our staff. And then, ideally, we'll have someone on board, hopefully in April at some point. I know for us, the timing becomes increasingly important. Our business director will take on the role of finance administrator or finance director in a couple of weeks, so that multiplies her workload. And I know as we are, working on the bond project and continuing to deal with routine repairs and maintenance, I can tell you that I personally spent about half of my, workday today dealing with the roof, snow removal, those kinds of pieces, and we're going to need someone here to help us look at the long-term piece if we want to remain focused on education and getting our business done. So,
A transitional question. I know the finance business manager will take on the finance responsibility. Is the town also going to transfer building responsibility to our business managers as well, or are they going to keep it until they find something?
I believe they're going to be holding on to that until they find someone, just
Okay.
as I'll be absorbing that until we find someone. Yes, that's a good question. And that transition, the current interim finance director has been meeting regularly with Lisa for the town, so that process is ongoing, and I think everyone is well poised to make that transition in the next couple of weeks.
I can't understate, I mean, we're all on the same team, on the same page with this conversation, but I cannot overstate, I cannot overstate how vital it is. Because as a business administrator, where I'm getting paid, I got the same concerns. And there's a guy with an engineering degree and 40 years in the business, do you know what I mean? Or, okay, maybe not 40, 30. But I say to him, how are we doing? And he comes back to me with samples and pictures, and he tells me he's already checked the rules, the codes, you know what I mean? He's somebody who knows that stuff. And for him, he certainly doesn't spend as much time doing it as I would, because he's familiar with it, and it's, for us to have that kind of resource is going to be huge. I appreciate the support and
It
helping
will
to promote
save
that.
money at the end of the day.
Oh,
If
save
you,
money, help us
if you
do it
would,
better.
before the end of the meeting, just give us his name so we can.
It's, it really, I'm just so pleased that we've been able to move the community in that direction, because I think it's another real important element.
And we might have to describe it again.
Yeah.
We might have to explain to people again, because again, it's another thing that we've been living and breathing. We might have to, when we introduce him.
Mike Hoffman climbed on the roofs today because, he's one of the guys that we've said his skill set, kind of look what he's got. He was the guy who was able to best say, come on, let's look. And we really appreciate his willingness, Steve's willingness to make him available or what have you. We've been so thankful. I'm thankful. We've been so lucky to have those kinds of resources when we needed them. I think it's going to be important for us to have them.
Well,
ongoing.
fact is that Mike and Rick and Sean
Yep.
and the business managers and the superintendent and have all been shoveling the work.
Yeah.
And although they have great expertise, many cases that's not their expertise. So I think we're going to see some talent,
Some efficiency.
talent efficiencies.
Yes.
Or experience efficiencies.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
we just gotta
it was
make sure
not
we get the right
efficient
one.
for me today to be researching
Right.
the load capacity of our roofs.
Right.
It took me time. I had to make phone calls to multiple people. I had to pull
Right.
out documents. And again, to Nate's point, someone with that background is going to know that
Yeah.
cold and be able to walk up there. Then I had to find Mike. And I had to, after multiple conversations with Jamie, and then we got on the roof. And,
Yeah.
all of those pieces take time. But someone with that expertise will, I think, be a great benefit to the community.
I do too.
And those are the short term, those are the quickies. Those are the things that are just right now. The bigger issue will be what you've talked about in the past, which is the strategic visioning, strategic planning for facilities, and being able to foresee and anticipate, and then connect the dots for the synergies between, if you're going out for one boiler, why not two? So.
Be an exciting time.
Yeah, it's just great things coming, great things happening and coming. Anything else under shared services? So we're hopeful now. We have our next meeting's on the 9th. We might actually be looking at
Hopefully we'll know
that
the
MOU,
timeline
the
for hiring
timeline, have a
process
sense
and the
of-
MOU.
yeah. Okay. Anything else? You guys can talk about facilities. All I can say is I keep seeing the dates and the events, and I've been running in another direction, and so I haven't been here with you guys for a lot of these, but boy, there's a lot of legwork being done and a lot of conversations going on. Thank you so much. Talk about it. How are we doing?
I love it. It's great. I love seeing the new faces that we haven't seen before. I like the questions. I don't like the cookies.
I would first of all just thank the number of people who came out for the deliberative
Oh,
session.
what a great
Put
one.
some thought into that, and
That was like a Christmas present.
yeah, it was good that
Yeah.
people showed up, and there were good points there. And we've had a couple of what do we call them?
Neighborhood meetings.
Neighborhood meetings recently. A couple of them got snowed out, have to be rescheduled. Generally on the smaller side in terms of numbers, but again, still good feedback. And it's all about making the information available, I'm convinced, to get it out there. And people still had good questions and things that we hadn't thought about. And, so it was not only good for us to communicate the proposal, but to pick up some pointers too. So thanks for people for attending those as well.
169 voters, registered voters at the deliberative.
Pretty good.
That's outstanding. I mean, it still is sad in representative government the way that we do this, that we only get 169 and not 1,000. But we wouldn't fit 1,000 in the gym, so maybe just as well. But that's a great number compared to some meetings.
We had a what was it, Tuesday, Meredith? Was it another forum?
Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning.
Yep, and we have one more scheduled in March, I believe. I buried my phone here somewhere. I believe it's the 8th. Just going to confirm that. At 6:30 at the junior senior high school.
That's the last one, correct?
That is the last one currently scheduled. Wednesday, March 8th, 6:30, the junior senior high school, another bond informational session. And again, I mean, we would just encourage people to reach out to us with questions. I know that, for example, one question, and I've had a couple of emails on this question, so I'm just going to mention this point, but one question was about the courtyard area at the junior senior high school. And as we walked through the plans at this meeting on Wednesday morning, I think it became evident why there was a courtyard in the area that it's in. It serves to provide light to the art rooms, to the counseling offices that are adjacent to it, to the library media center, which is adjacent to it, and otherwise those would just be walls with no natural light coming in. And as we talked about it, how many of us have in our homes rooms with no natural light? Right? Imagine having 4 of them in your school where you're spending, 6, 7, 8 hours a day receiving instruction.
Yeah.
So the courtyard area, it's an outdoor area, enclosed brick courtyard. It's got the walls around it. So not only does it provide a really nice sort of natural straight line hallways, it makes the connections easier within the building, but it also guarantees that we have natural light into those classroom spaces. And so again, that's just one of the examples of the good questions that we've had and how beneficial these small group sessions are, I think. So I would encourage people to come out and be in contact with us if they have questions.
And if somebody wants to have one, we'll, give us a call, drop Meredith a call, get your neighbors together.
I guess we should also mention the videos. They've been up for a little while. There's videos that were recorded that they're brief and they go over various aspects of the project, from the process, how we arrived at the decisions, to various, to the financing questions. Officer Stevens is on there talking about security briefly, but that's a quick and easy way to sort of get up to speed on things. Those are up on the school's website. I'm not sure if
they're also on Channel 13, but yes, you can link to them off of the school district homepage or the newmarketschoolprojects.com site.
Excellent.
Have we put them on YouTube?
They are on YouTube.
They are, yeah.
Linked from those sites.
Okay.
And many thanks to the hosts, again, for hosting these neighborhood meetings.
Anything else under facilities? Work being done. Thank you.
Yeah. During the deliberative session, I was struck by the graciousness of all of the people and their thanks and so forth. And I wish I had taken the opportunity, and I've thought about this a lot since that session, to get up as a citizen, because in that group there were a whole bunch of school board members that have gone before us, and if I were one of them, I would have felt uncomfortable because of the sincerity and praise of this, this group and so forth. And I just want to say they were the one that cut down the trees for us. those were the ones that did all the tough work. We all know that it takes 2 or 3 sessions, 2 or 3 tries for most buildings to get through. And they were the ones that did it for us. And I saw a couple people there that used to be chairs of the school board, and I wish I had thought of this during the meeting. They did the dirty work, and I think we need to let them know. And one of the I mentioned this to one of the people after the meeting that was a chair, and he said, "Well, please invite us to the ribbon cutting." I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah.
And, we just happen to be lucky to be here at this
I
time.
think it's a good point, but as the Atlanta Falcons will tell you, we're at halftime. So we have to run through the finish line, right, on this, and it's run through the finish line in terms of getting the information out there and making because we need to be realistic that there seemed to be a lot of support. We've heard it, and we saw it at the deliberative session, but human nature is that if you disagree with it, something like that, you're probably not going to want to go into that and say so. So, totally agree with you, Al, because I was thinking the same thing. I'm knocking on wood, I guess.
I got it.
And it's important for people to understand that. I think we've got a very good proposal out there. Let's see it through. And that from now, we've got a month left, a little less than that. Let's get that info out, and then absolutely, if and when it passes, they set the buoys.
They did. And in some cases, without kind of leadership, we had hoped they would have.
Absolutely. Yep.
Quick thing.
Yeah, please.
So related to that, I went last week to the State House to the Legislative Office building to give testimony regarding the House bill with respect to building aid. And one of the members of the Education Committee asked, in general, not directed at Newmarket, but what have you schools been doing for the last 20, 30, 40 years? And in our case, there's a really easy answer to that. We built an elementary school 30 years ago. When that bond was paid off, the community was working actively to start addressing the needs of the junior senior high. It's taken 10 years. We're still working on it. A lot of people have put a lot of effort into this over a long period of time, but I would second both of your points, right? A lot of people have been doing this work for a long time. It hasn't come out of the blue. This has been an ongoing challenge for this community and for many other communities, but it's not that districts haven't been addressing the needs, and there's still an uphill battle. That's a lot of money to ask, again, of our community, but also for Rochester, for Hinsdale, that's facing its building challenges, for Dover, that's dealing with a building project. There are communities statewide who are fighting this fight right now, and the governor has said in his budget proposal that he has put money in for building aid. I hope that they extend those funds to schools that are undertaking projects, but also that have had to undertake them in those years when the moratorium was in place. We'll see what happens as this goes before the Finance Committee in the legislature, but it's an important piece, I think, for schools statewide. The other thing I wanted to mention was just around financing.
One of the problems, I've only done a little bit of research on it, but one of the problems with some of the comments that the governor made was he suggested that building aid ought to be restored, but it ought to be restored for schools that are dealing with asbestos problems and lead paint and things that would almost limit it to, it was as though he had someone in mind, because we've abated all the asbestos we found when we found it.
Well,
We're not throwing...
Have much more.
Well,
but
we have, but when we've,
Correct.
we've monitored, right? But when we disrupt something and we create an opportunity, we're abating. Where there's, nobody's putting lead paint on surfaces any longer in the buildings. It's I hope that what comes around is a formula that can really make it such that there's a return to the state supporting investment in our educational infrastructure, because roads and bridges are terribly important, but creating minds that can actually be educated to engineer those solutions down the line are just as important, maybe more so in some ways. So, anyway, I saw that, and I always get, there was this woohoo, like all of a sudden there's going to be building. I was like, wait a minute, did you actually hear what he's talking about? He's kind of slivering let me get credit for saying, yay, it's a great program, but then let me see if I can limit it so that nobody can use it. And we got that in the last go-around, because when they rewrote the rules, I'm on a soapbox now, I apologize. When we rewrote the rules, when they put the moratorium in 08, 09, 10, they wrote the rules in a way that makes it almost impossible for the program to work for any school district. The dates are wrong. They let you know that you're available. It's available to you middle of January, when you're already going to the ballot and you've already made your decisions, and it's too late to factor in the aid, so it's kind of an afterthought.
It's a step in the right direction, I think.
I'm hoping it's a step in the right
But
direction.
But it's not a silver bullet, because I was right on the number where it is
Yeah, it's
300
huge
million.
scale.
It's
Yes,
30 million a
you're
year we're
correct.
applying to pay it down. And so there's 300 million in tail of projects that have been done, the state has to pay off.
Right.
In addition to, I can't fathom a situation where there wouldn't be retroactive aid for the Salems, the Pelhams, and hopefully the Newmarkets of the world who, did stuff. That wouldn't fly. But so if it comes back, it'll come back at a fraction, I think, of what it was. But it's, I suppose, better than nothing. But also, I'd like to thank Mike Cahill. He's been working so hard on this, and I mean it, almost every day we get an update or an email.
Everybody I've talked to at the state about this always says, "Oh yes, Mr. Cahill called me. Oh yes, I talked to Mr. Cahill. He's been absolutely relentless with
All
this."
over it.
Yeah.
The governor's
Thank you.
comments too, I mean, if you look, I was going to bring that up. We've got the tail to fulfill. He's got his budget, which it may work out that he can fill some of it.
Right.
But he also may be looking at schools like Newmarket was 10 years ago, that was laden with asbestos and laden with, and he may know
Fire
more.
safety stuff,
He
yeah.
may know more than we, in as much as he's saying, at least, and I'm supposing this, but at least we got to get that stuff fixed.
Right.
So,
And that would be a good, certainly that'd be a good start. I mean, any investment in our infrastructure is, hey, it's, yeah. There were lots of reasons why the state made the decision to throw the moratorium down and change the system. And I wouldn't fight hard to argue against any of some of the reasons that I remember. But
yeah.
it'd be nice if we could get back to a point where there is some state support for the program.
I have extended, just so you're aware, an invitation to the governor and our new commissioner of education to come and visit our district
good.
at their
Excellent.
convenience.
Thank you.
We'll see if
Please let me know.
Yep.
they're able to do that. I will certainly let
Right,
you
he
know.
lives right next door.
That's right. He's our neighbor. Right on the way.
That'd be great.
Yep.
Talk about a good case study. And hopefully one that's worked its way
Right.
through to success despite.
Some of the job.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
On the financing piece, we continue to get sort of intermittent updates from New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank, from an independent financial consultant who's working out there, from David Barnes, from the USDA. We're working on the pre-application process for the USDA loan program at this point. And we're ready to go with the bond bank, though that deadline's a little bit later. We want to have the USDA materials ready to go for mid-March in the event that the bond passes, so that that's ready to proceed. Their commitment deadline for applications is April 14th. So our hope is to get in ahead of time so that we can get some feedback from our local office if there's anything that they feel is missing in our application, so that we can have a complete application before the USDA in April.
Are we working simultaneously with bond, self-bonding?
So that door is still open. Based on the fluctuation of the market right now, what what the independent consultant is telling us is that the municipal bonding market may not be looking so attractive as interest rates rise. And so that may not work to our advantage. It may be better for us then to pool with the bond bank. It's also a more time-consuming and costly option
Right.
to pursue
So it's
our own
there,
bond
it's on the
rating.
back, it's
It's there, but right now that is moved to the back burner.
good, okay.
Anything under communication? I mean, it's been largely about the facilities project and the bond vote, and
It has. We will certainly
It's been
put a
great.
notice out to families around the change to the calendar and to faculty so that people have time to adjust their schedules as best they're able to for that. I did want to mention that the videos were online and that we will have the postcard mailer going out the week before the vote. That's being finalized.
Maybe it's on the calendar. School in session on voting day?
School is in session on voting day.
And it will be at the gym.
It will be at the gym at the junior senior high from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Principal Mazzoni and I and Officer Stevens and Rick Bodette, Sergeant Rick Bodette, met earlier this week just to talk about logistics for that, along with Terry Littlefield, town clerk, and Penny, our school district clerk, and just to sort of walk through, okay, where are the signs going to be? How's it going to work with school in session? Where will staff be parking? Just so that all of those things hopefully run smoothly on that day, because it's been a couple of years since voting day was held at the school when school was in session. Last year you were not able to be there because of the flooding.
okay. Anything else?
Is it, I don't know if it's permissible or not to have, I know for the public sessions, we've had, the drawings up, and we've had some information packets out. Is it permissible to say in the foyer of the gym to have that stuff up on voting day?
It is permissible. That permission comes from the moderator, Chris Hawkins.
Okay.
And he did give us that permission in November.
Okay. We have minutes to be approved. First is from the school board meeting of February 2nd, 2017. I'd seek a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Any adjustments, amendments, modifications? Hearing none, I have a motion from Ms. McKinney, a second from Mr. Kennison to approve the minutes of February 2nd, 2017. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? 4-0, we're unanimous. Then I have the minutes of the deliberative session of February 4th, 2017. I seek a motion.
So moved.
Second?
I have one adjustment that I would propose on page 3. We gave credit to David Barnes from being from the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank. Third paragraph, David Barnes, maybe we should say David Barnes, comma, bond counsel from Devine and Willamette. Explained that the article is written. That was the only thing that I saw, though. Anybody got anything else?
And again, just thanks to everybody that came out that day.
Yeah. And for the honest comments and suggestions. I will editorialize again, probably once or twice, but I appreciate the civility and the respect that all have paid to one another. I'm not aware of any flagrant examples of the opposite, and I know that we came from that, and I really appreciate how much conversation has gone on and how civil and friendly and neighborly it has been. So we respect that people will have differing opinions all the time, but it sure is nice to be able to have some civil discourse about it. So I have a motion from Mr. Zink, a second from Ms. McKinney to accept the minutes of the deliberative session February 4th, 2017 as amended. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And we're unanimous, 4-0. There were manifests tonight. Did they make it around?
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the payroll and AP manifests of 2/16/17 Payroll manifest in the amount of $251,957.64. Accounts payable manifest in the amount of $159,739.65 for a total of $411,697.29.
Second.
A motion from Mr. Zink, a second from Mr. Kennison. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the manifests as presented, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? We're unanimous, 4-0. Our next school board meeting has been rescheduled to Thursday, March 9th, 2017, here at 7 o'clock. Anything else that should be before us? We have need for a non-public. I need a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A:3, Section 2C.
So moved.
Second?
I need a roll call vote. Mr. Zink.
Aye.
Mr. Kennison.
Aye.
Ms. McKinney.
Aye.
Mr. Lunny is an aye. We are in non-public 4-0 by roll call at 8:01 p.m. Drive safely.
Thanks for coming.
Good night.
Thank you.